Alright folks, I'm back. It's Dane, it's Jonah Custom Guitars. The Goya classical guitar. This is an extreme close-up. Right there, you see the little divot or chunk. I'm not sure what it is actually. I'm hoping it's compressed wood fibers. I'm going to just take and put some water on a rag, and I got a soldering iron right here handy. I pulled the strings off of it. Well, they were already loose, but I got them all the way off, and just happened to notice this gash in the board. So just going to try to address that, see if it's something that that I can fix this way. If not, it's a little darker than rosewood, a little coarser grain than ebony, so it probably is rosewood with some stain on it. But I'll get, I don't know, grind up some ebony, grind up some rosewood, mix them, and fill that if this doesn't take care of it. But we're going to try just steaming that out right there. See if it has any effect. Doesn't look like it's doing much, but I'm going to try it again. You got just to see, you know. I don't really know. Just said if it was a gash and the material's gone, or if it's just compressed. If it's compressed, this should divot. Actually, it looks like it raised up a center section here, and there's still a line, but it's about half the size it was. And like I said, I'm on the extreme close-up on the camera, and I'm sure you can't really see it there, but maybe I'll be surprised when I look at the full screen. Anyway, I'm going to try this again. Put a little more water on the rag. I'm pretty sure what I've done is taken the dye off of the board, because it looks pretty brown right there now where this was at. Fortunately, as I mentioned in a previous video, the 70 Gibson neck reset, I bought some leather dyes, and I bought a brown for that guitar, and then I went ahead and bought a black while I was there. And so I should be able to restain this fingerboard with black. Then I'll oil the whole thing. And I think that's about as much as I'm going to get out of that. It's quite a bit better. It's actually raised up bit above the fretboard itself, but like I said, I'll go ahead and grind up some rosewood and super glue that, and then scrape it back down to the height, and you'll never see it. And then especially once I stain the board again, because down here on the fretboard extension, which you can't see in this close-up, I'm going to back you out. Down here in the extension, it's a lighter color than up here. So I don't know how that happened, but yeah, I don't know any history on this guitar. Going to be re-gluing this top. As I mentioned earlier, it's got a pretty open crack across there. I should probably actually do some, re-humidify this thing a little before I try to do that. Which I will as I come and go out here. I'll just put a wet sponge inside an open baggie. That's usually how I deal with it. This headstock looked like it might have been cracked across the top. It's got a pretty good fissure there. I don't see it coming all the way through though, so I don't know. Yeah, you see a line inside the peg head groove there where the tuners go through. Anyway, that doesn't look like anything I need to worry about. It's just unevenness in the peg head. And that's not a veneer, so that did actually crack. It must have just dropped, hit the peg head, cracked back, but didn't go all the way through. I can actually see lines tracing from where this crack goes here all the way down into the, and actually through into the tuner hole here. So, well, that's interesting. It's not opening with any pressure, so I don't think that's a, can't see that. I'm just pushing down on this a little bit just to see if I can get any movement there. So somebody glued it up. Anyway, right now it just looks like finished damage on the face. And it's stable, so we're not going to worry about that. And I'm going to do the body crack. And what else? Oh, I'm going to trace this thing. So I'll bring you back in just a second. It's been a couple days. I've been working my way around the bottom end of this thing and off the block in the pad. Built a little cabinet in between doing this and the video you've seen. Reminder, I used waxed shims to push this in with, and really could not get in here and clean the glue off, so we're just going to see what happened. Got this mold here. It's just on there to give me something to force it against. So I started out over on this corner, and I'm thinking it was around 70 thousandths when I started. I'd have to look back at the video to know that for sure. Now I don't know where my caliper's at. Oh well. And was able to clean up pretty good before I got everything clamped. This center seam here was open, and it was also loose between the back and the side of the guitar. Now actually have a tiny little gap right there that I had. Oh yeah, the sides of this guitar don't actually meet evenly, so it's tight on this side and there's a little bit of a gap there because the sides don't come together on the same plane. Whoever built the guitar didn't do that. Okay, so I still have a little glue here from this last bit on this corner. There was a loose section here, and I'm gonna have to put my visor on and probably get some hot water and see what I can do with that. Got a little bit. This one went in quite a bit nicer than this one did. I actually just used the shims straight down that way rather than I had them paired up before. It was coming straight on this way and that way. Anyway, it's probably just that this was easier to push in for whatever reason. So I'm going to move to the next section that's loose, which I believe is right here. Not a real bad one. From what I'm looking at over on this corner, this is sticking out further than this one. I might just dribble some CA in there and call it good. But let's put the separator in there and see what it does, if anything. You know, it doesn't really come apart. I'm a little leery of, I may have mentioned this previously, a little leery of putting everything together, jamming shims in there and then dribbling CA in there, you know, and having it wick into the crack to lock it up. But I might end up having a shim stuck to the side of the guitar. However, this is been waxed, re-wax it and try it on this one and see what happens. This doesn't seem to be really loose. Yeah, I'm gonna put this form back on here and push on that with a shim and see if it moves. Put these little rubber pads in there. What do you call it? Grippy. I don't know what it's really called. It's like shelf liner, but it's rubbery. And then I got one on this side as well. Just gonna jam the shim in there and see if it makes any difference. I gotta get my visor so I can see that. I guess that should be specific. My magnifying visor. I don't just need the sun out of my eyes. And the magnification. Does not really look like it's moving. So just to make sure, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to spray a little water on here, probably in the way. So spray a little water there, which may seem counterintuitive, because if you get the wood wet, then the wood swells, right? But if you get a little water in there and it wicks into that crack, it'll get the CA will wick into that crack better. So, got some CA, Tide Bond, and I'm going to get some in a pipette. And I've got everything pretty much ready to go. I've got the form on here. I'm going to roll this up a little bit so you may or may not be able to see it. I'm just going to wick some CA in this crack right here. Okay, did that. Scribbling down the side a bit. Wipe that off. No, nothing left. What I'm going to do, I'm going to pull this on up. Take this shim. Now, I'm going to break a shim. Need a thinner shim, I guess. All right, so I've got that right up against it. It's in there tight. Not sure it pushed it in any, but it's got CA on it. It's going to have slight down pressure. This is a padded clamp. If I weren't in a hurry, I'd still use extra pads, but I'm not putting much pressure on it, so I just want to make sure it's together. All right, so That won't take long to set, but I'm not gonna accelerate it or anything, so I don't want anything turning white on me. Though I don't have any puddles, so that probably wouldn't have been an issue. So, closing everything up. I'm gonna let that set for a while. I got some. I got to put a headphone jack into a pig nose amp for a fella, so I'm going to work on that. So, I'll bring you back in here if we do anything interesting. Okay, back on the Goya. Got all of the perimeter fixes done here. We can see, I don't know how much you can see, but so all these little spots where the sides were pushed out proud of the back. I think what happened was the back shrank, and I've probably discussed that in a previous video. These have gotten so far apart that I don't remember what I've said before. Here's one that you can actually see a color line there. That's the top edge of that side poking out there. You know, however, that was quite a bit more visible. There were a couple spots on this guitar that were the worst as far as how they were popped out. And this, where's it at? Fine, well, can't see it very well. This center line here was cracked up a bit that way. Right here on this corner, it was sticking out twice that far. And in some areas I was able to push them in, and none of them, you know, popped back out after I you know, the glue set up. But I just couldn't get some in as far, no matter how much pressure I was going to push on it. So that's, like I said, that's twice as good as it was. It's still a little sticking out. The owner of this guitar is really just wanting to arrest that. Didn't want to spend any real money on it. I would have, my thought was to take and just do this, do all his repairs, and then actually run a binding channel on this and bind it. And I thought that would look kind of cool, but he didn't want to go that route. So this was one. There was one up here, one here, this one. This was loose back here, this crack repair. I did this one was sticking out, and you can see it's much better than it was. This is that was repaired there. Had a repair here, had a repair right up here, and then this was probably the worst of all of them, and it probably turned out better than any of the rest. For some reason it pushed back in, and it was out here, and it was out here. It was still stuck there. Anyway, then the other thing that I did here was you could move this neck heel around. If you put pressure on a guitar, it would open up here. So I did just that. I put pressure in there. I took my separator knife and slid it down in there the best I could to kind of just scrape the surface inside the joint. I don't know if this is a dovetail or if it's a standard classical construction, you know, with the block and all that inside, where they wedge it from behind. It doesn't look like it from the sound hole. So it's either dovetail or probably dowel. Anyway, I opened it up, thinned out some regular tight bond, just a little bit, just to make it flow a little better, and then I took my air nozzle and blew it down in the crack, here and here, put a band clamp, which is still handy because my shop is a complete disaster. Band clamp around it, pulled that up tight. I also blocked with a pad. Blocked the neck up off the bench like so. So there's space in here. Then I put probably 20 pounds of weight on it right here so that it pushed the heel, you know, down into the guitar as well. So with the band strap and with the weight on it to push that joint together. Popped that off this morning and things look good. Nothing popped loose. That's always a good sign. I don't know what'll happen once we get strings on it, but it can't be worse than it was. So there was a repair here. Not sure. This was cracked all the way from the sound hole. The only reason it didn't go all the way through to the sound hole is there was a brace running underneath the top right here, right across here. So this was open, quite bad, and I was able to use the suction cup trick and push some glue down through this crack. And I also I'll grab a mirror. I don't know if you'll be able to see in there or not. I also put a quite a large, and I'm not getting a whole lot of anything useful there. Let me try putting some light on it. Okay, got a lot of glare. What I'm seeing, I can see it with my eye, but I'm not sure. You can see there's a cross grain cleat going across that crack there, so that was a little mahogany.